The first confirmed case of the concerning COVID-19 Omicron variant has been detected now in the United States. And this week, New York City Health Commissioner Dr. Dave Chokshi said that we should anticipate its detection in the city right here within the coming days.
And let's bring in the Health Commissioner, Dr. Chokshi. Sir, it's good to have you here. You're Mr. Public Service Announcement to anybody who lives in this area. We see these.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for the past year or so, telling folks to get vaccinated and giving them the updates. Going to be here anytime. It's here already, probably, right?
Very likely it is. You know, we anticipate detecting it sometime in the coming days, very soon.
Well, a question there is how soon before we in New York end up going back to some of those restrictions, lockdown? Are those on the table and being discussed in the city right now, going back to a particular, not a full lockdown, but restricting people in restaurants, what they can do, putting mask mandates, not just advisories in place?
Well, we aim to avoid those harsher restrictions, and we have so many more tools to be able to do that. The single most important one is vaccination. And in New York City, we have a particular focus on vaccinating our kids, anyone aged 5 and up, as well as making sure that all adults know that they're eligible for booster doses. Beyond that, masking and testing is really important, and if we bring to bear all of these tools, I am hopeful that we can avoid those restrictions.
You actually issued an advisory this week recommending that New Yorkers wear masks in indoor and public settings, but you wanted to clear up because there is this mask confusion. So we'll give you the floor to talk about what should we be doing when we're indoors with masks.
Thank you so much. Yes, I issued a commissioner's advisory on Monday, which emphasizes using masks anytime you're in indoor public settings. That means going to the grocery store, if you're at work, if you're on the subway. There's some settings where it's already required, like healthcare settings and public transit. But what we wanted to emphasize is that anytime you're indoors, wearing a mask is important.
And Dave, obviously with the holiday season, so many people getting together with friends and family, tourists coming into the city, aside from vaccination, because the fact is we don't know yet how these vaccines' efficacy will hold up against this new variant, but that is the best tool right now in our toolbox. What can people do more in addition to that to help their safety?
Well, we're looking at this very carefully, and you're right. We have the confluence of cooler weather right now, which means people are spending more time indoors. We also have holiday gatherings, which means, people are just sharing more indoor air, which we know facilitates the transmission of the virus. So face coverings will help, certainly, as we talked about. We are re-emphasizing testing as well, particularly testing around travel and gatherings. And then I have a very practical piece of advice, particularly around holiday gatherings, which is plan it around the most vulnerable person who will be there. It could be a child who is still not old enough to get vaccinated. It could be an older family member or someone who has a weakened immune system. But take the steps that you need to protect that person, whether it's having some things outside, even though it is colder, or making sure that everyone is fully vaccinated and wearing masks and distancing.
Or opening windows.
Or opening windows, absolutely.
New York City getting a new mayor next month, Mayor Eric Adams. How have you been working with him to make this a smooth transition? Will anything change?
We're working very closely with the mayor-elect's team as well. It's so important to have a smooth transition at this time because we're not out of the pandemic yet. So I personally am very committed to ensuring that smooth transition, but I have to give a shout out to all of the dedicated public servants at my health department who have been working day and night for almost 2 years, and New York City can keep relying on us.
And Dave, before we let you go, I just want to ask you, non-COVID, New York City just opened the country's first 2 overdose prevention centers for opioid prevention. Tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you so much. This is a really important step because the overdose crisis is another public health emergency. 2020 was the deadliest year on record, both in New York City and nationally, when it comes to overdoses. Over 2,000 people died of an overdose in New York City alone last year. And, these are not faceless numbers. There are brothers and sisters, our sons and daughters, our neighbors and friends. And so overdose prevention centers, we know from experience around the world, They save lives. They get people connected to care. So I'm really proud that New York City was the first place in the nation to take this important step.
An important reminder that it's not just about COVID. Very busy doctor, New York City Health Commissioner Dr. Dave Chokshi. Thanks so much for coming by with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.